Have you ever looked back at the previous year and thought, I achieved some goals, I think? Yay. We want to talk to you today about a one sheet. It's a tool that we've used for quite a few years now to help us revisit the goals, the intentions that we made, agreeing on where we want to get to personally or in our business or in our family, travel, finance, all different aspects of our life. Having a written plan, when you focus on something, that will grow. When you focus on something and write it down, it'll grow exponentially. We're Wes and Christy Mass going on 23 years this year. That is crazy. We own a business together. We have 4 kids. I just love doing life together. And we're going to break down this one sheet, and we're going to have the ability for you to have a copy of it as well. So that way you can create this. And we want to go over a quick boot camp, so to speak. And we want to open up with some points that are really important to have agreement on. The first one is clarity before action, and then action brings clarity. What does that mean? Sounds counterintuitive. That means what we don't want to do is fire, ready, aim. Like, we want to take the moment to pause, to reflect, to talk as a couple, say, hey, where do we want to aim? Are we ready? And now let's fire. This one sheet is an awesome clarity filter where we're taking that time to talk about it. This isn't just a task list, not a to-do list. This is just not a productivity tool. This is a clarity filter. Most of us, most married couples, most business owners, most parents, we don't not reach our goals because we're not putting in effort, because we're not working hard. Most of the time we don't get there because we lack clarity. If you're watching this, you probably are working hard. You probably are showing up, but maybe you're not getting the traction you want because you lack the clarity to take the right actions. When we are making so many decisions on a daily basis, and when they're big decisions about, you reach June and you're like, what happened to the first half of the year? That can put us into decision fatigue very fast. And sometimes on a daily basis, the best thing we can do for ourselves is just make fewer decisions.
The second one we want to dive into is identity drives direction. Bigger doesn't necessarily mean better. And sometimes what we find is that we put goals in place that don't align with who we are becoming and what we want to do and what's important to us. We pick goals because we feel like those are the goals that we should be reaching for. Goals without identity lead to burnout and hollow success. Why you want to achieve goals is much more important than achieving the goal itself. So there's so many different areas of our lives. And the great thing about this one sheet is it does put it on one document. They're all integrated into what we're doing and how we're showing up in the world. And so this kind of brings all those pieces together. If your goals cost you your health, your marriage, or peace, they're too expensive.
Third one is lead measures drive results. What's a lead measure? And we're going to talk about lead and lag measures. A lag measure could be, I want to lose 30 pounds. A lead measure was going to be, I'm going to work out 5 times a week for 30 minutes each, or I'm going to take 10,000 steps a day. You're breaking down your actions instead of the result that you want. And that shift there, if it's the first time you've heard it, that's like a big move. It's an absolute game changer because we can get really discouraged when we just focus on 50 pounds because that takes time, and that's okay. That's part of the process. But when we're focused on that and we're like, oh, I lost 1 pound this week. Well, that means you're on track to lose 50 pounds in the year, but it doesn't feel like a lot in that 1 week. You feel like you're behind right away. So we can 100% control our behavior today. So being consistent in the small things, doing consistent small things will outpace short bursts of intensity, tortoise in the hare. So we're going to share our screen now and break down the one sheet.
And I don't know about you guys, but Wes and I, we love getting to work together. So we get to spend a bunch of time together. But just because you spend a bunch of time together or you work together does not necessarily mean that you're getting a bunch of time to talk about these big things unless you're intentional about doing so. Yeah. We're going to start here in the left quadrant here of B. And you want to start with a theme or word for the year. And then the second part of that is, who am I becoming this year? At the end of this year, am I a person who works out that's that it's part of their regular rhythm. Am I a person who reads? And the next section right over here, starting at E, is kind of your financial overview. And so you're going to have where you're going to put your data for 2025. So how much income did you bring in? How much active versus passive income. And so we'll break that down a little bit. That gives you your total. There are some formulas in here. So just so you know, when you plug in a certain amount, that will auto calculate your gross. Your net worth, we actually have for you guys a bonus tab on the bottom here that will help you figure out your net worth. This is a great number to be tracking if you're not, because as life is going on and you're building equity in your home or you're buying properties, instead of just, tracking your savings, for instance, this is a great way to see how different decisions you're making impacts your overall net worth. And then there's also this financial freedom formula and dashboard. And so you'll see there's this little black triangle. If you hover over that at any point after this video, if you kind of forget or need more of an explanation, you can look over this in more detail. But the idea behind it is that we want to get to the place our passive income is taking care of our life.
And passive income, we're defining, maybe that's a rental income, maybe that's you're looking to retire, how much is your stock portfolio, mutual funds, whatever that case is, that you're not active is you're actually going out and working and producing an income.
You have the 2025, what you did last year, then 2026, obviously you'll add that as the year comes to an end. But you have your 2026, so you have your 2026 goal and then your 2026 actual of what you were able to do.
For 2025, what were the highs? So as we're reflecting, evaluating, processing the previous year, what were the top 5 highlights from last year? And these are things like graduation, or our oldest went to college, or things like that that have come up. It could be a financial goal. Could we bought our first rental house or got a new job? Those kind of things are great for those. And then 2026, what are upcoming highs that we are either intentionally putting down or that we know are coming, that you're celebrating 10 years of marriage, or you're expecting your first, second, or third child, whatever that case may be. What's a highlight that's coming up? Maybe there's a retirement coming up. The goal body stats are there to keep a focus on those as well as you're going throughout the year.
All right, and then the next category here, we have your top 5 future bucket list items. So this isn't this year, this is thinking even further out, right? We're looking at 5 years. This is a great opportunity for you guys to just dream a little bit. What are some of those things, those bucket list items that you'd love to do, places you would love to go, impact you would love to have? This is where you get to dream big and
scare yourself a little bit.
Yeah, scare yourself a little bit here.
Here's back to the key lead measures for daily and weekly tracking. So you can do this a number of ways. There are some formulas here. If you have an annual goal, I want to read maybe 30 is a lot of books for you. If you read about 2 to 3 books a month, you'll get to that. Or you want to lose, I don't know, 50 pounds, try that. Then that would let you know 1 pound a week, 4.2 pounds a month. And if you just want to say, I want to do 10,000 steps a day, you could just type over that and delete the formula if you want to, and just put 10,000 steps a day and put that over here. Just a different rhythm for you to track that.
What are our goals for 2026? Few things I want to start off by saying here. 1, don't feel like you have to fill every single box here. So you don't need to come up with 3 things under each category if it doesn't align, right? That we talked about before. So don't force it, is what I'm saying here. I would also recommend starting with a life wheel. And this is where, before you even put any goals down, you look at each of these categories and you're gonna rate them, say on a scale of 1 to 10. So for health and nutrition, how would I currently rate my happiness in that category? You can even change what these titles are, right? So if there's certain ones on here that don't apply to you, or there's other things that you'd rather track, customizable. And then the next question you ask is, what would need to be true for me to give myself 2 extra points? And that's a great starting point for you to start thinking about the goals that you want to list here. And if you have one that's super low and you're like, okay, I'd rather be really intentional with getting all 3 of my goals in that category this year, then getting 15 goals accomplished across all of these, like that is perfectly fine. So an example of that might be like for marriage, I'm gonna rate it and I'd be like, you know what? I really feel like if we got better at doing a weekly date night, like I would definitely jump that rating up. And then I'm gonna have to think through, why haven't I been able to do that so far? What are some of the obstacles? What would it take is what we'll ask ourselves a lot. Okay, like what would it take to be able to do weekly date nights?
You're really good at asking that question.
And so it might be like, okay, one of those challenges is having to find a babysitter. Maybe it's finding somebody who can commit to every Thursday evening and I don't have to think about it anymore.
Right.
They're automatically coming to my house. Then maybe another barrier is, well, then we're just tired because we don't know what we want to do. There's things you could do about that, like with date night cards or things of that sort that can make that easier and less decision-making on your part and bring an element of fun to it.
The last ones here are just some accountability questions. What do I need help with? And that's a really cool question for us as we're reflecting on these things and we ask ourselves or ask each other, like, what do I need help with this year to stick with this plan? What do I need to give focus to? We only have so much time. We only have so much attention. What do I need to be held accountable for? And accountable is just to give account. It doesn't have to be a negative thing. It's just like, hey, how'd you do on your steps today? How'd you do on your steps this week? What would really need to happen for you to crush this one sheet? Monthly check-in. You can change these columns. Like we have a marriage thing. We have a peace, health, movement, date nights. How many have you done? How would you rate it?
And that can be either a red, yellow, green. So when you're meeting together monthly, this is something that you can do a quick rating on. These should align with your goals. So that's where we want to be customizable. January comes around, we're doing our quick meeting and we're like, all right, red, green, or yellow on date nights. How did we do? Man, we crushed it. We got it every week this month. We're giving ourselves a green. Maybe we did 2 out of the 4 and so we do a yellow, or we're like, man, we dropped the ball. Like we didn't even get one in. We would give ourselves a red. And so this is just a way to do a quick check-in and help hold ourselves accountable so that our goals just don't become this thing that we do in January and then don't touch base on them, throughout the entire year. A rhythm that works really well for Wes and I is our monthly meeting is an ongoing calendar event.
It can feel cold, but if it's not, you're much more likely to do it if it's on your calendar.
Quarterly, plan, once again, get it on your calendar, plan your quarterly retreat, just a night or 2 nights. And then when you get together to review your one sheet in its entirety, and really have some conversation, don't leave that one without scheduling the next one. 3 months out, where do we want to go? A lot of times we'll try to go to a new little town, nothing too far. Like we don't typically fly.
No, it's usually a 2-hour drive or less.
And it can be at home. I mean, I would highly recommend having childcare and all that kind of stuff. But if you can get out, it's just something about changing your pace and changing your environment that really just helps change your perspective. Yeah. And sometimes when we're in our homes and we're thinking about what needs to be for dinner or laundry or we're getting interrupted, it's really hard to get in that space to have quality conversation. Absolutely. And to really be able to think and dream at a bigger level.
Maybe you're better at focusing than us, but we've definitely found that to be true. When we leave our house, we can think at a deeper level.
I feel like, this is something that Wes and I have to be really intentional about, because even with us being together all the time, if we're not intentional, man, like that 3 months flies by.
It does, yeah.
And before you know it, like you haven't done it. So make that just a part of your regular rhythm and it'll really help you be successful in crushing this one sheet.